Hello, friends, and welcome to Binge O'Clock, the podcast where we watch something and then we talk about it. I'm Joy Selden, and I've seen almost everything.
I'm Danielle, and I've seen almost nothing.
I'm Nella, and welcome to the stretch of It's a Wonderful Life episodes, where the worst thing that could happen to you is not become a librarian. Wow.
The absolute worst.
Oh my god, she's wearing glasses, Joy.
Glasses?
She's never married.
She's become an old maid surrounded by books for the rest of her days.
I feel like that's what happened to Lincoln, but that's just me.
This is Danielle's face doing nothing because I don't know what It's a Wonderful Life is about.
Oh my lord. Oh. Well, we know what we're watching next Christmas then.
Yep. We can already mark it on the calendar.
And I don't understand the reference. Everyone, fill out your bingo cards.
So, capitalism is bad.
You know, a lot of the stuff that Joy and I end up watching end up being mini treatises. How do you say that word? I've only ever read it. On how capitalism is bad.
I don't know how to say that word.
Treatises.
Treat it.
Minute.
What are we trying to say? I'm so confused. Shall we talk about Fringe?
Let's talk
these
about Fringe.
episodes of Fringe.
So these episodes of Fringe. So for this episode, we watched season 4, 1 through 4. We slammed through 4 episodes, and the reason we did that was because I pushed for it, because I know what happens at the end of season 4, episode 4, and I was like, no, it's actually fine. This ties up the thing that we keep seeing over and over again, which we'll get to.
No, great little cliffhanger. I thought that was a nice arc that you planned out for us.
Yeah. No, these 4 episodes, I mean, if you're watching along or if you haven't seen it in a while, this was the Fringe universe of... We have so many Fringe universes at this point. Are we settled on Amber? Are we calling it Amber?
I think
Yellow?
it's yellow.
Amber.
It's not. It's yellow.
I would call it Amber.
The Yellow Amber universe is a universe where Peter Bishop dies in both universes, but Walter still goes to the other universe, takes him from Walternate, and instead of the Observer saving him at Lake Raiden, it felt weird in my mouth before I said it. At Raiden Lake, instead of the Observer saving them at Raiden Lake, he doesn't show up, and Walter is the only one who survives, and Peter dies in the lake. And so he never survives to adulthood and the changes that happen therein. Now, there's a bunch of plot holes, which the show is not going to explain, but that's fine.
So
how did the machine actually...
Yeah,
how'd the machine actually, do this without Peter? But it's fine. It's fine. That's fine. There's a couple other things, too, like...
It was a nice opportunity for the show to gently retcon some things. And some of them were positive. Like, when A.U. Broyles walks out, I've never been happier to see that tight shirt, you know?
Right.
I like Broyles!
The tightest of t-shirts.
Broyles.
Bless his soul.
I'm not 100% sure why the non-existence of adult Peter means that A.U. Broyles lives.
I'm sad that the lack of existence of Peter means that Charlie is still dead in our universe.
Oh, yeah.
There's no Charlie in our universe.
Because the shapeshifter still happened, right? So the shapeshifter still happened, which is why Charlie is still dead. But see, that's why my brain is like, well, A.U. Broyles, not that I'm complaining, should also still be dead, because the reason he died is because of Olivia's whole kidnapping, which still happened.
Well, here's a question. Did Olivia, when she went over there without the anchor of Peter, still go essentially crazy? Because remember, it was that her brain held on to the idea of Peter. And that meant she still had the rest of all her information. And it was only the personification of Peter that drove her to, try and get back here. So, maybe she never tried to escape. Maybe they just dumped her back.
How did she get back?
I don't know. That I don't know.
They didn't explain it.
They didn't explain it. I mean, also...
Well, then they probably just shipped her off and they did the mass exchange. And they actually had Olivia to swap out with Olivia.
I mean, I do also wonder, like, if the Cortexiphan...
accepted.
But, like, if the Cortexiphan is now not as important to Walter... You know what I mean?
No, I think it is less important because of the episode with Chadwick Boseman in it, right? Because we find out that the Cortexiphan experiments were a little bit different. They weren't intended to have long-term effects.
Right.
The kids only had their powers for a little while after they were injected, and then in theory, their powers were supposed to go away. So yeah. The whole thing was different.
And she doesn't wear the blacks and grays anymore. She's less traumatized. She's more standard child. I think Nella and I were trying to figure this out. Okay, like she has standard child abuse, what we would call standard child abuse, and not like secret drug trials for Walter Bishop and, you know, like months and months and months of trying to get them to cross over into an alternate universe to save a boy.
And she still knows about the drug trials. They definitely still happened. She definitely still blew up a room. And she has an odd relationship with Nina.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a theory, and I apologize, listeners, because who knows, I may eventually, like, you know, recant this because all of a sudden I've remembered what happens or whatever the hell.
Well, see, that's exactly the problem. Like, I don't actually remember what happens beyond this episode as established. So I'm wildly theorizing.
I think because the Cortexiphan trials were not as brutal, and Walter was not, like, driving these children to some end goal. It was just experimentation for experimentation's sake, which is which tracks with what they've done.
Not to get his son back to the other side.
Yes, exactly. I think that experience might have endeared her a little bit more to, like, Nina Sharp and William Bell and, like, the whole team. Is William Bell still dead? I don't even remember. I don't think we talk about him.
I'm assuming yes.
I think we do. Hard to say. I don't remember. My memory of the show gets fuzzy. Here's the thing, is I remember certain things very vividly, but I don't always remember the order in which they happened.
I think that's actually my problem too, because I remember things like, and we were talking about this pre-pod, during our last recording session when Nella mentions that AU Lincoln is only going to be in one episode, I very carefully did nothing with my face because I did in fact remember that he would come back into the yellow universe. I think the issue is that eventually we end up with so many universes, my brain cannot keep track of which things actually happened and which things, you know, gray universe happens, where they happened in one reality, but that reality essentially ceased to exist or ceased to be meaningful to the narrative of the show, and so you might as well just ignore that information.
Well, like,
I can't keep it all straight.
No, for sure. And, like, speaking of, you know, like, speaking of this whole different sense, isn't it Astrid who's just like, what do you mean you were tested on as a child? Like,
I thought that was weird, too.
Yeah.
When Olivia takes out the files, and it was like they had never had this conversation before. I was like, wait, but why?
Because it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah. It was just like a little...
I mean, I'm not saying that it isn't a big deal. Like, look, I still firmly land on the please don't experiment on children. Please don't do that. That's bad. However, it's definitely not what it was in the previous universe anymore.
No. But how could Astrid not know about that? Like, did David Robert Jones not happen, or whatever that guy's name was? Because that's how we were introduced to the Cortexiphan trials, because of his little test for her.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
He may not have shown up yet. I don't remember. These are things I don't know that I know. I know, but I don't know them.
The implications! We can only let ourselves say that once this episode, Joy.
And there it was. We did it. We did it. Good job.
So, anyway, this little arc of episodes just throws us into this amber yellow universe where all of these things are changed willy-nilly, and you kind of just have to accept them.
Which I found to be really easy.
Yeah, like, I was okay with it.
I found the character development to be pretty solid. Like, you know, without Peter, Olivia is a very staunchly by the book FBI agent. Like, after John Scott, you know, we don't even know about his betrayal. Or maybe even if his betrayal ever existed, we don't know. Hard to say, because he dies. Because the whole thing in that timeline is like, without Peter giving Walter the idea of how to adjust the dosages and like link their minds together or whatever, it's impossible to save him. But like, because of John Scott, and like she opened up to John Scott, and then like he died, and now we're back to like Olivia in her teeny tiny shell, you know. And I love her in there. Like, look, I love my open Olivia, but I also love that, like, this makes sense. Without Peter, this makes perfect sense. That she wouldn't open up.
Anna Torv is such a rock star. She is such a rock star. There were so many moments in these episodes where the two versions of her were standing next to each other, especially, and I know I'm going ahead, but especially in the serial killer episode where literally her hair isn't even different. There are two versions of her standing next to each other. They are both blonde and they are both wearing the same outfit. And you can still tell distinctly when they aren't talking who is who.
Yep.
She's brilliant. Like the way she moves her body, the way she holds her face. But that made me think, I agree with you, Joy. I love this Olivia. I love that she is staunch and by the books. But I love those little moments of surprise that you get with her, too, where you realize she has this dark side of her that she has just kind of funneled or that she's redirected towards all of her investigating. You know, like when Faux Olivia asks her, so what happened with your stepdad? And she goes, oh, I killed him.
Because of course she did. Because of course she did.
I killed him. Steps out of the car. Nonchalant. Olivia! Like this is an Olivia who is not constantly haunted by things. No.
And maybe that's okay. Like, you know, like, I love the last Olivia. I love this Olivia. It's like, there's a part of me that loves Faux Olivia because she's such a weird bro.
CrossFit bro.
CrossFit bro. Definitely a CrossFit bro. It's a great way to stay healthy, keep in shape. Just one of those guys. I don't know. I mean, I think you're right, though. I think it is like we stand Anna Torv in this house.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Amazing actress.
I can even forgive her for Bellivia. I do. I forgive her for Bellivia. It's fine. Do you, Nella?
I feel like she needed more time with Bellivia. So yeah, no, I also forgive her for it.
It felt rushed. It felt
it was super rushed.
We thought this would be a fun idea, and then they kind of they tried to do things with it, and they didn't do the things right. Or, you know, like you said, like they didn't have enough time to do them right.
They shouldn't have done old man voice. The mannerisms were correct, but the old man voice really just ruined it.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Okay. Should we talk through these episodes? Should we talk through plot?
I mean, the overarching plot in these 4 episodes, which we sort of touched on the intro, but like, I'll try to sum it up real quick, is we left season 3 with the observers saying that Peter essentially hasn't existed for them.
Right.
From the time of Raiden Lake. So they don't remember him. They don't remember what's going on. They don't know any of that.
It's funny because I think that at the end of season 3, the way they phrased it was as if he never existed at all. You know, like as in Walter never had a son. Right?
I know.
But it's not like he never existed. It's just that, you know, this timeline has been rewritten, like you said earlier, so that he actually died in childhood. So adult Peter doesn't exist anymore, and every memory of theirs of adult Peter is gone, though Walter still remembers Peter as a boy, and he still loves Peter as a boy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, the thing is Peter isn't completely gone.
Traces of him are still bleeding through.
And so we get some tidbits of like, you'll see shimmers of him in a reflection. Walter starts seeing him around the lab. And then eventually Olivia sees full-on, like, electronic apparitions of him that are magnetic somehow. And that was fun. It was very, like, Dr. Manhattan. It was like he was trying to reform his body, and it was very strange.
Right, and get himself back to her somehow.
Yeah.
And to reach out to Walter, right? Because every time Walter saw him in the reflective surfaces of the lab, he would hear Peter calling out to him, like, I'm right here, help me. And, you know, of course, Walter was doing everything he could to shut out that noise because, you know, Walter's arc in these episodes is that he thinks that's him. He thinks that's himself being mentally unstable. Mm-hmm. And he thinks that if he tells anyone about his, quote, hallucinations, he'll get sent back to St. Clair. So he keeps it secret for a really long time, and then it's revealed that actually Olivia has been dreaming about Peter. But it takes them, 2 episodes to get to that?
Oh, conclusion? 3, I think.
3.
Actually. Is it 3? Wait.
2 or 3. You know what?
It's 3. It's 3 whole episodes before the almost self-lobotomy, which, thank God, she interrupted that.
Oh, that self-lobotomy scene.
It was really bad. But to quickly sum up, the thing that happens at the end of episode 4 is after trying to, like, you know, re-energize himself into a person, all of a sudden he manifests in the middle of Raiden Lake, and he's an adult, and I assume naked?
Yeah.
I assume naked as well.
I assume naked. And just is there, and these poor fishermen are like, hey, you need some help? And then he starts saying the names of Peter Broyles and Walter Bishop and Olivia Dunham, and Broyles is like, I don't know you, man. Like, everyone's like, I don't know you.
A man showed up in the lake. He knows tons of classified information, and he claims to know all of us. So Peter shows up, and at least as far as we know in this show, all of his memories are intact. I mean, so what happened there is that if Olivia hadn't fired her gun into the air and disrupted Peter's concentrations somehow,
oh no, what was his name? Mark?
Well, it was either Mark or Cameron, depending on who you asked.
Right. Well, yes.
Chadwick Boseman's character.
God, he was so good in the show.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. Well, that bit is kind of confusing to me because it's like Peter was trying to coalesce and become an actual human standing up in front of Olivia. And he was starting to come together, right? You could start seeing the features of his face.
Right.
So if Olivia hadn't fired the gun, would he have appeared in front of her? Or would he have died,
I think Mark Little was trying to specifically disperse him into nothing.
Yeah.
So had Mark been able to finish what he was doing, Peter probably would have been lost.
Right.
So I think firing the gun was not to disrupt Peter, but to make Mark stop doing what he was doing.
Yeah. No, I know that's what Olivia was trying to do. I was just wondering, but then why? I guess he shows up at Raiden Lake because it's important to him, ?
See,
because this show is what it is. Because it's a soft spot. Because of that.
I figured he showed up at Raiden Lake because that's where he died as a boy in this universe.
Oh, fair.
And then he just shows up there because it's like those were the last traces of his actual personhood there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I'm also, who knows? Who knows? We're just going to have to see.
We're just throwing spaghetti at the wall here. Yeah. And Olivia goes to see him at the hospital. He is extremely happy to see her, and she does not remember him. And so the tables have turned.
Yeah, when that happened, Nella said, and it was at that moment you could actually hear his heart breaking.
And it's this show refusing to allow anyone to be happy. No one is allowed to be happy.
It's like they let them be happy for a brief moment, and then they're like, well, all right, well, now we have to throw it all out and do a soft reboot, and this will be season 4.
Yep, and they just
The
rip
softest
it away
of
from
reboots.
you.
I know.
Like, oh, remember that couple you cared about? What about poor Robert's family? Can we discuss Robert?
I know.
Robert is too good, too pure for this world. There's how dare Joe Flanagan just roll up for like
3 minutes.
5 minutes of TV.
Yeah.
5 minutes of TV. I saw John Shepard's beautiful, stupid face, and I was just like, his hair is still spiky. Bless you, sir. And like he's just a mess. He's just a messy dad. Like toast in his mouth.
Way.
Like Lincoln literally chasing him around the house. Just put on your pants, dude. Put on your I lost it. I thought I was so endeared by this like odd couple.
Lincoln's
partner thing going on.
Bundling children up, passing lunches to the wifey. You know, being a generally helpful human.
Yeah, just like, and then like if he had survived, I would have been like, and this is my throuple. This right here. This right here, the sensible
work
wife,
husbands, and the sensible wife,
the work husband, and the husband that you're just like, could you please put some pants on, please? We had to leave 5 minutes ago, and you're still. Why is there still toast in your mouth?
We are going to be late. There are lives to save.
Why is he still not wearing
don't have pants on?
Still don't have pants on. I had to.
And it's just.
I had to stuff it down real fast when Nella was like Shepherd, and I was like, oh no.
No, she's don't do it.
No, I imprinted really hard, and alas, Robert doesn't make it. He gets clear skinned
by a shapeshifter, a human shapeshifter. Because surprise, there's a new species of shapeshifter in the Yellow Amber universe.
I hate it.
And Robert falls prey. I mean, hopefully, Nella, this will be the last time you fall for this thing that the show does, which is whenever someone shows up and is happy, they are inevitably going to die.
I make no promises.
It's this weird. Okay, I feel like before Joss Whedon had a bunch of TV shows, this wasn't a thing. Like, it was just a bunch of, like, maybe there's sexual tension, or maybe there's a will they, won't they, or something. It wasn't like, and then as soon as they get together, someone dies, or someone gets encased in carbonite, or, like, I don't
whatever
know.
It is. Stabbed in the back with a sword randomly.
It's like the Spider-Man problem of people who are convinced that if Spider-Man's actually, like, well-adjusted and living a happy, like, adult life with Mary Jane, like, that's not interesting. Like, he's always got to be struggling and never married. And, like, and I'm just like, yeah, but hear me out. What if Spider-Man and Mary Jane were just happy together? And, like, they just had a beautiful, like, fulfilling relationship. Like...
But then where's the conflict, Nella? Where's the intrigue?
That's in, like, the 7 goddamn villains that come rolling up being all like, Peter! That's where it is.
I mean,
it's like, no. Or it's just like, oh, I'm sorry, we have to reboot Superman because, him and Lois were getting too domestic. And I'm just like, first off, the fact that you would call Lois Lane domestic. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you? The 1960s musical? Second.
Right? Really betrays your lack of understanding for this character.
A lack of understanding of how to write a goddamn good Lois Lane. Give me more stories. I'm like JJ, like, over here being like, I need more stories of Lois Lane. Give me more stories about Lois Lane. She kept her last name.
She did.
Okay, so not only do they kill off Robert in this first episode, and then, introduce us to the myriad of differences that we've already discussed, they also make it so that since adult Peter doesn't exist, Olivia doesn't remember Lincoln, and Lincoln doesn't remember Olivia. And so they get to meet each other for the first time.
Their first tragic meet cute.
And I guess there were sparks. What was the tragic meet cute again? I don't remember.
Well, I lost my partner to a weird Fringe event. Mm-hmm. You just lost your partner to a weird Fringe event. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying I'm empathizing with you right now.
She is so bad at flirting. She's like really bad at it.
She's so bad at flirting, but she all of her energy is directed towards her job.
I know.
Like, I love at the meet cute his I want to speak to the manager moment where he's like, I'd like to talk to someone else. And she's like, well, there's no one else. There's just me. And then she walks away.
She walks away.
She does not have time for your tragic backstory.
For your bird mom energy. I have no time for this. Yeah, no, she slowly sympathizes with him because it's like, look, it's still Olivia Dunham. Like, she's still very good at like empathizing with people and, really getting to the heart of the thing. Which is the other Olivia in this episode, in the episode, which is always my name's Olivia. Like, I always love that moment. But, like, so she's still good at that. And, like, she still has a heart. So even though, he's obviously having a rough time of it and he's obviously trying to throw around, what weight he possibly has. I thought, okay, so here's what I thought would happen even when I watched it on TV, when he was like, I could just call my friend at the New York Times or whatever it was, and like, have them come down here and investigate and blah, blah, blah. I thought that was going to be like a bluff moment, like what Olivia did with Peter in the first episode and calling back to that. And like, you don't even have a friend at the New York Times, do you? Like, I really wanted that to happen.
I mean, that would have been the setup payoff, but,
whatever, it's fine. It happened in my head. Maybe it's on the cutting room floor somewhere.
Can I just say, though, how much I enjoy that our agent, Lee, is a smart lad who finds the lab because he traces cars, he just follows the...
Do you have any idea how many buildings he checked in Harvard before he found them?
I love that.
How is he directed to Harvard again?
Well, he memorizes her license plate and then he just follows the car through, traffic
and then he sees it parked at Harvard, and then he looks through, and then he looks for the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, look, they have a little thing in common. That's how she finds the serial killer. Aw, see, they're perfect for each other, except that he's not Peter. I mean, Astrid also thinks they're perfect for each other. That little girl talk moment between the two of them.
I know.
Yes.
Astrid kind of ships it. Can we talk about Astrid and Walter in this universe?
Yes.
Because
yes, please.
They're so... I feel like we stiffened Astrid's spine a little bit in this season. In this universe, at least. Like, she has a lot more agency. And she also kind of has to, because in this universe, Walter is a lot more agoraphobic and doesn't want to leave the lab, and this is the only place he's ever known as home, and he still gets monthly visits from St. Clair's because he doesn't have any family to look after him. And it's such a different dynamic, and I really like it. Like, I like that it's a little more business, and that, look, she actually has a job.
That's true. Like, when she goes out into the field, she has something that she needs to do other than keeping an eye on Walter and making sure that he's well fed.
Getting him snacks. Although, okay, she also still gets him snacks.
She also still gets him snacks.
Yeah. I feel like, in a way, though, the sort of, hand-holding, emotional connection gets taken over by Olivia.
Yes.
Whereas Astrid would have those quiet conversations with Walter... and Astrid would have probably been the one to find him about to lobotomize himself.
Yeah.
It's now Olivia, which is an interesting change of that.
I think it speaks to, Olivia not being nearly as traumatized by Walter. And, maybe if she doesn't make other connections easily, maybe she's still able to maintain these other connections that she had when she was younger, like with Nina and with Walter.
Or she just has so much more sympathy for him because this version of him is so much more helpless.
Oh, this is also true.
You know?
Yeah. He has a lot less agency here.
Yeah. Like, how could your heart not go out to someone like this?
Yeah. Trying to ignore Peter with his reenactment of his Maxwell sound commercial. Every speaker on the Harvard campus needs to be delivered to my lab. I'm running an experiment. He doesn't even have a hotel room. Like, at least with Peter, they had hotel rooms and things before they had a house. Like, he just stays in the lab, and he's been staying in the lab for 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Hasn't left the lab in 3 years. That's wild.
Oof. You know, I mean, of course, why would he, though? Like, everything he wants is right there. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true.
Walter doesn't
Jean, he has all the food that he ever wants because people will bring it to him, and he gets to work his mad science without anyone bothering him.
He literally just gets to do as much science as he wants. Those are his days from morning to night. I also like how his psychoses have kind of shifted. Like, how he's still angry, but he's angry at specific people. You know what I mean? And not just, like, getting angry at like a misplaced anger. Like, he's very angry at Nita.
More. I was going to say, he has a lot more anger for Nita in this universe than he did in the other one.
Which, again, what happened? What happened, Walter? Where we went from smoking weed together in the park to, like... very angry.
I'm sure the show will explain it to us.
Sure.
She says.
Absolutely sure. I will not put money on it.
100%.
I'm so confident I will not bet against it.
Yes, but no, so he's agoraphobic, which our other Walter isn't. He's specifically angry at a number of people like Nina, which other Walter wasn't. And his fear of germs, which I'm forgetting the formal name of at this exact moment, is something that he experiences in this universe. It's just like everything is amped up. And I mean, the reason the show gives for this, which I don't know if there's any actual psychological basis for this.
Sorry.
Mysophobia, yes. The reason the show gives for this is that, as Olivia says, he just never had anything to tether him to the world. Because he didn't have Peter. His wife, Elizabeth, killed herself right after Peter died. So he lost the two most important people in his life immediately, almost, one right after the other. Belly is nowhere in sight. Nina is no longer someone he cares for. And so he's alone, on top of which this Walter saw his Peter die twice.
Yep.
Not his Peter, but you know what I mean. His son, Peter, die twice.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to do something to you.
That's got to do something. When you fail to save your kid 2 times.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. No, he has some very serious internal trauma that I doubt he's probably worked on, or maybe he attempted to work on, and then he was just like, you know what's better? Science. And he just went.
He just did his thing, and he over-medicated and just dissociated and focused on his science and didn't actually deal with his feelings or his trauma or anything that happened to him.
Yeah. And it breaks my heart, but also it's a really important character choice because it makes so much sense. Mm-hmm. It's just like, yeah, this is exactly what this character would do. Like 100% believable.
And this is what Walter would be like if he didn't have Peter, or if Peter died as a child. The way things were meant to be, as the observers say. How do they know which universe is the one that was supposed to play out?
I don't know.
I'm sure they'll explain that too.
I'm sure.
I clearly don't remember the answer.
I'm sure we will get a full disclosure in the coming episodes of exactly what and how and why things are happening.
Why it has to be this way specifically.
Yep. All will be revealed.
All will be revealed. I feel like we should definitely talk about the Alone in the World episode 3. Which I call the Stranger Things episode. Nella calls it the Stephen King episode, which makes sense. Both are valid.
Yep. Oh wait, so this is the third episode, right?
Yes, the third episode where the little boy and the fungus are connected.
We talked about everything important in the second episode anyway, because the second episode was the serial killer episode, which is that a single difference in a person's life could 100% change the person that they are, and that's what we see in Walter. That's what we see in Olivia. That's what we see in literally everyone. So,
but then they also do the very heavy-handed thing of like, even though like she was erased from his mind, like the effects of her teachings, like you can't
kill
erase
an idea.
a person. Exactly. I was like, ooh, they're laying it on pretty thick over there.
That's true. Okay,
they erased their memory of Peter, and yet traces of Peter exist because the things that truly matter to you cannot be taken away. La show.
I feel like
we're picking up what you're putting down.
I feel like Danielle almost made the like puke gesture, but she kept it professional. It was so close, though. It was a toss-up. One or the other could have happened.
My little puking gesture is saved specifically for when Lincoln flirts inappropriately with Olivia.
That's true,
and by Lincoln, I mean Frosted Tips Lincoln. When Frosted Tips Lincoln flirts inappropriately with Olivia in the workplace, that is when I make the vomit gesture.
That's fair. That is a
which
correct
she actually
use of it.
did in this episode when she put the blonde wig on. Leave her alone.
I know.
She has Frank. She's still with Frank in this episode because Peter never happened.
Yes. Yep.
Leave her alone.
She's just not that into you, dude. Leave it. Let it lie.
She has a man who goes and buys expensive avocados for her and saves lives and ends epidemics and brings her red wine.
And still gives her a massage on his last night in town. And then again, as always, we circle back around to no one deserves Frank. Frank is perfect and amazing.
Astrid is the only one who deserves Frank.
Yes,
true.
Although I wonder what Frank's like in our universe. Like, maybe he's like, I don't know, like a beloved high school teacher or something.
Oh, and does he teach gym? He might teach
or
gym.
He's a science teacher. He could be a science teacher.
Yeah, right?
He could be a science teacher. It's fair. I will say the only thing I really like about the serial killer episode, the episode 2, is that idea, but I'm also like, I see we're still borrowing from Inception.
Oh, I see, yes. You can plant the idea as long as it belongs in their brain.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right.
Like, it's this weird, like, it may not have the intention, which you blur, but, yeah, it's an okay episode. I already, as soon as it started, I was like, oh boy, this one's weird. Strap in.
Well, that sure was a cold opening. Because he like freezes people to death so he can steal their anyway.
Yeah, the science of this episode. We can't even talk about the science of this episode
because they didn't explain it. Anyway, moving on to my precious baby and his fungus.
Yes,
the fungus that just want to do a protect and an attack. Because
you know what endeared me to our Lincoln in this episode?
What?
The fact that Walter calls the fungus Gus one time, and thereafter, without missing a beat or blinking once, Lincoln calls that fungus Gus.
Yes, I too had this exact same feeling.
That's a good line.
He's like, yes, there, that's how you do it.
And I also love that he said it in the perfect tone of somebody who now just adds this to their vernacular. Because look,
he just adds it.
Lincoln in our universe was this person when we first met him, where he just rolled with those punches and maybe he made a couple of connections, but he was just like, yeah, you could tell him anything you want. He'll go with it.
That's why it was heading down the sink. It was trying to connect with Gus.
It was trying to connect with Gus.
I am horrified that they saw it going down the sink and no one was like, shut down the pipes immediately.
This little guy's
do you
toward
want
the
Last of Us? Because this is how you get The Last of Us.
Their containment protocol in this episode left a lot to be desired.
Yeah. Sure did.
Sure did.
Howdy. I appreciated that they put on the big, like, you know, hazmat suits, and then I was like, and that was it. That's where it stopped. I also like that Walter...
Look, it's going down the sink.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh, weird.
And how Walter was like, well, as long as you don't touch it, they won't even know you're there. And I'm like... Oh,
and then, like, we know that this thing can burst, explode, and shower everyone with spores and then infect and kill you. And yet they step into the very center of the thing with literally nothing on.
Yeah, I know, right?
You know, they only had those hazmat suits rented for like 3 hours, so...
That beleaguered props manager, again, is like, you've got 3 hours with these things. Pick a scene.
Exactly. We don't have time for your nonsense. You have this much time, and that's it.
And the writers just put in that one line to help it all make sense. Oh, it's fine as long as you don't touch it.
As long as you don't touch it. But can we talk about that little boy? Because I love him so much.
He's a great little boy.
He does such a good job.
No, I have a soft spot for stories where, like, bullied kids
get to put on tinfoil hats and drink shakes.
Yeah, and, like, drink milkshakes with old men.
Yeah.
I mean, Walter, bless him, is great with children.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, he always has been.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of a kid himself.
Even when he yells at the kid for touching one of Peter's toys, like, I really appreciated his apology to the kid.
Yeah.
Like, just that, hey, adults can apologize to kids, too. Like, imagine that.
Yeah. And it happens right away, too. Where it's just like, he realizes instantly that he's done something wrong. I don't even know that our previous Walter would have known that, because he was very myopic and very sort of set in his ways. And if he got upset over something, he might not even have, you know what I'm saying? Like, he might not even have made the leap to, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Because he was very sort of about himself in a lot of ways.
Maybe. It's hard to say, because I don't know whether our original Walter would have yelled at this boy in that way either.
Oh, that's also true.
Our original Walter, I think, would have had the self-control not to do that in that moment, but also hadn't lost Peter twice as a young child, you know, so it's different. It's different.
It's definitely different.
Walter's outburst in this episode. Maybe it's Bigfoot.
He doesn't have any theories at this time. Like, Astrid really using those interpersonal mediation skills to the height of their... I do like it when she apologizes to Nina, and Nina's like, Walter has said a lot of things to me. What he's never said is an apology.
Thank you.
What is that? Yeah, that's what it was. He's never said thank you.
Yeah, but no, the kid does a great job in this episode, and I think it... I mean, I don't know. The show does kind of leave this kid in the dust, though. Because, you know, you're never going to see this kid again. Yeah. But Walter promised that he cared about this kid and wouldn't abandon him and would be with him forever. And that they would get to see each other all the time. It's not going to happen.
I know.
And also, this kid now has to live with the knowledge that he accidentally, but still, killed 2 people.
Yeah. The fungus chose murder, but it chose to act through a child.
Yeah.
Even fungi can choose murder, Danielle.
Murder! Its name is Gus. So what's your plan for Gus? Oh...
Yes.
That brilliant moment where, because I said, what's your plan for Gus? That brilliant moment where Walter suggests UV light or heat will be sufficient to kill Gus. And Olivia very gently suggests that they kill it with fire.
Yeah.
But in the most Olivia way possible. I would suggest flamethrowers. I was thinking Flamethrowers.
I mean,
kill it with fire.
I just love her walking into that room and being like, so this is a percentage of Gus. Like playing the numbers in her head and being like, well, I'm sure there's a lot more in that cave. And it's a lot more active. Maybe we should kill it with fire, sir.
What if we killed it with fire? But yeah, this is another one of those episodes where Walter is taking what's going on with him internally and projecting it onto another character, which allows him to eventually process what exactly is going on with him. He wants to save this boy because he was never able to save Peter, and that's what eventually drives him to this partial lobotomy.
Yes.
Like, maybe if I could just let go, ?
Of whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever is causing these hallucinations to haunt me, then I wouldn't need to be recommitted.
Yeah, it's such a hard storyline. And I appreciate that they don't shy away from how difficult that is. And even Olivia with the, please know that this doesn't reflect on how I feel about you. That's not what this is, and trying to be gentle about it. And even after the hotel thing, she's not instantly like, you belong in a mental institution. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one episode in a vacuum, and she's able to see it that way. And in an extenuating circumstance. I mean, these last two, I think, episodes 3 and 4 were kind of my favorite of the 4. They're tied for first place.
Why are they your favorite?
Well, I'm such a sucker for a kid and his monster, man. just a kid and his monster. Just
okay. So wait. Yes, a kid and his monster. And then let's just use that to move into episode 4. Why is episode 4 one of your favorite of the 4?
Well, I think because, what was funny is I couldn't remember if Olivia still had been a Cortex-fan child in this universe up until this point. So I really enjoyed getting the explanation of what that was. And of actually she was, but they weren't nearly as extensive and didn't take nearly as long and weren't as emotionally traumatic. There's a lot of fun.
For some of the subjects, anyway.
Right. But there seems to be a lot of fun in Subject 9. Even though it's we're talking about experimenting on kids, and even I think we only get to the part where it's Astrid's reaction of whoa. You know what I mean? But everyone's kind of just talking about it because it's just a thing that happened.
Right.
In the 70s or whatever, 80s, whenever it was supposed to have happened. I always forget how old Olivia and Peter are, so I feel like I never understand the timeline.
Right,
and it changes anyway, so.
Tomato, tomato, right?
Tomato. It's fine.
Anyway,
but
the pre-modern medical ethics times.
Yes. And I also like that we get to have the Mark Little character where he, just all of a sudden out of nowhere, he started getting the side effects. He wasn't able to astral project anymore, but just the side effects would happen to him. And it had, as far as we know, nothing to do with anything. It just started happening one day. And in season 1, we had a catalyst for this. We had somebody who was juicing up Cortex fan kids and poking and prodding them and trying to see where their levels were and things like that. And in this season, you know what I mean? It's not a stranger showed up and had an inheritance for him and all of a sudden his powers came back. Yeah,
no, his powers. That's true. I guess, though, he wasn't really able to access his powers until Walter taught him how to in this episode, right? He had that go away moment where finally he is able to, quote, access his powers.
Right.
But prior to that, he'd just been living with this crippling anxiety because not only was he already an anxious person, he now has to get anxious about being anxious because when he is anxious, metal flies towards him, including the fillings from inside his date's teeth.
Yeah. That was a rough ride.
That was a story.
Didn't like that.
Didn't like that.
I And stories like that are also what's always like whenever there's like superpower and then there's always a drawback. And I love that he only has drawbacks. And it's like, you know, like everybody wants to read minds, but you don't really want to know what's on someone's actual mind, you know, like remembering that other episode. And it's just like, that's what this felt like to me, especially his opinions about Raisin Toast.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Toast. But have you ever had Raisin Toast?
Have you ever had Raisin Toast? I'm not giving that one to you, Walter.
He really got the short end of the stick here.
My tantrum was justified.
Justified. Andy used to live next to that racist neighbor of his. Why was she even in this episode?
Right? Is it I don't know. What a weird freaking...
Why?
It was weird.
Weird, entirely irrelevant to the narrative, not even a useful little red herring of a thing, because not for 1 second longer did they suspect Mark Little / Cameron.
I know. I guess they needed a reason to stay the night, or whatever it was, to like go somewhere and come back. I'm forgetting the timeline of the episode, so forgive me.
No, you're right. But, that's what they did. Yeah. But she could have just said, oh, he drives the truck, he'll be back tomorrow morning, without the racism.
I know. This is also true. How on earth does he drive cars? Like
he must be the most chill, non-road rage trucker in the history of ever.
I mean, I believe it, yeah. He just puts on some smooth jazz and
he listens to a lot of what's that word? He listens to a lot of meditative discs.
Oh, transcendental.
Yeah.
Gosh darn it, people like me. It's a lot of very...
So we've done it. We've circled all the way back around to the end of that 4th episode.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Hey.
Because we already explained what happens at the end of that 4th episode.
You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Not the most linear of episodes. But then again, is the show even? It's fine.
If linear episodes are what you are looking for, you would be fans of neither this podcast nor Fringe. So
this is true. This is very, very true. Does everybody have a one more thing?
I do actually have a one more thing.
You go first.
Okay. My one more thing was from episode 2. And it is when they reveal why Scarly isn't in any of these episodes. And it's because he's on his honeymoon with Bug Lady.
Oh, right.
I love it. I'm so... Yeah, I'm...
I completely forgot about
kids. Is on a beach sipping Mai Tais with the Bug Lady. Sorry, Mrs. Bug Lady.
Oh, my God. I love it. I just love it.
Scarly, not these episodes because he's on his honeymoon. Oh, it's good. Oh.
Bless.
See? This is one happy person. You keep your eye on him, Nella.
No. Somebody's going to be happy. Somebody's going to slide somewhere. Gonna get through the line unnoticed.
You're allowed to be happy if one version of you is already dead and you're full of spiders.
There can only be one.
Maybe.
There can only be one.
There's not enough happiness to go around in these multiple universes, don't you know? It's a finite resource.
Do you have one, gets it all.
There was this brief moment where Olivia and our agent Lee were both like close talking and wearing glasses, and I was like, yes. I ship it. Oh no, Team Glasses. Oh no, look at these nerds.
Oh no, team, we don't know how to talk about our feelings.
We don't. Oh, how dare you? You came for me in my house. How dare you come for me in my house? Two adorable people in glasses who can't use their words.
Oh my God. They are, though. They're very cute.
I'd read that fic. I would read that fic in a heartbeat.
I bet you there's
it's out there.
I'm sure there's Olivia link fic. I think I have two small ones.
Okay.
One of them is Faux Olivia talking about alternate Astrid. And being like she has more thoughts in her head at any given time than you will in your entire life, or whatever the whatever she says.
I forgot about that scene, and I'm so glad you brought it up. Because I love it as another example of our CrossFit bro just doing her best, you know? She's like, well, Astrid gets all the ideas. If there were a good idea, Astrid would have had one.
I know.
And Olivia's like, no. The photograph, but I saw the photograph. She's like, but he didn't own the farm, so we can't find his name. And Olivia's like, But the photograph,
but
there was
a truck
license
had
plate.
a name on the thing. I also love how our Olivia gets so frustrated with her, where it's just like, if you just let me finish my sentence.
A, let me finish my sentences. B, could you think outside the box for just 1 second? Just one.
The answer is no. That's not what Olivia does. And then the other one is the lesson in root beer floats that Walter gives to Olivia.
That is the proper way to drink a root beer float.
That's exactly what a friend of ours said while we were watching it at the same time. She was like, I mean, he's right.
He's right. He's right.
He's right, though.
And I know this because when I was a kid, I had a funny thing about certain foods being mixed. And so I tended to separate certain items because I just wanted them separated. And my poor Filipino parents were aghast that I would not put things on top of rice. Like, I would eat the rice white and plain and bland and then have all the sauce and the veggies and the goodies and the meat on the side. And they'd be like... Listeners, there's no way for me to convey the face I'm showing to Nella and Joy, and I so apologize.
Maybe we'll take a screen grab. If you're really nice, we'll take a screen grab of it. It's perfect.
It's our friend talking about his toddler daughter and being like, I let her bring the whisk to the playground. I don't know what to tell you. I let it happen.
And so child me insisted on drinking the soda first and then eating the ice cream. And it wasn't until much later in my life when I finally got over that and realized how beautiful it is when you can, in fact, have both of those things together. And when you put the sauce and the veggies and the meat on top of the rice. Everyone, please do that. It's delicious.
See, I always found root beer floats to be a waste of ice cream, so I would drink the root beer as quickly as I could so I could enjoy the ice cream untainted.
That's fair. You do have a thing for ice cream.
It's almost
my like
dessert.
It's supposed to be like specifically kind of bad ice cream you put in a root beer float, though, right?
It's supposed to be like a standard vanilla, like a vanilla bean. But, I mean, if you put a good vanilla bean in a good root beer, I think the experience is actually quite wonderful. And thank you, everyone. That was our podcast about Fringe.
Is this the content you came for? I hope so, because you got it.
And name this episode The Perfect Root Beer Float.
All right, listeners, I think that's as good a spot to stop as any. So let us leave you by saying we would love to hear from you. Please check us out at Binge O'Clock Pod on Twitter and Facebook, where you can answer the question, what is your favorite Stephen King novel? You can also email us at bingeoclockpod@gmail.com. And don't forget, we have a Patreon. Find us at patreon.com/BachPod.
That's right. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, tell the live lobsters in your life about Binge O'Clock, and we will see you next time.
It would be The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I have a really soft spot in my heart for that book because I read it just at the right point of like my middle school, high schoolness, where I was obsessed with the Hatchet and other survival stories.
Oh, yeah.
So then to throw on like survival horror of a 9-year-old girl lost in the woods and just trying to survive was chef's kiss. It was exactly what I wanted.
I don't know that I've read that.
Oh, it's a goodie. It's a good one.
Add it to the list. It's a Stephen King book. I bet there's an awesome audiobook version of that somewhere.
Ooh, there probably is.
Possibly.
Right?
Do I have a favorite? My mom really loves Stephen King. I feel like my favorite is The Stand, but that feels like a cheat. I don't know, man. I like The Stand. What can I tell you?
You like The Stand. I like the one Stephen King novel I've ever read, which is The Eyes of the Dragon. Thanks, Dad.
Anne Hetch read for The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. She does the audiobook, yeah.
Oh, hey.
Huh.
Quick, someone tell Danielle who that is.
I mean, she's
that's the outro, everybody. Who had Anne Heche on their Danielle bingo card?
Right.
Does not know Anne Heche. Got it.